Welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. It's Sunday Fun Day here at MTG Burgeoning, and in today's video, as our epic deck building series around Morophon the Boundless as a Shapeshifter Changeling deck draws to its inevitable conclusion, today we're going to review how the Changeling Pool performed during 25 games of gameplay. What's up, MTG BC? That is the MTG Burgeoning community. All right, baby, it is Sunday Fun Day. And in today's video, we are going to review the 75-card Changeling Pool that we used during the 25 games of gameplay with our Morophon the Boundless Shapeshifter Changeling Tribal deck. If you missed any previous installments in this current deck building series, I urge you to click the links in the description below, and it'll bring you right up to speed. Very quickly, if you are unaware of what the Changeling Pool is for this deck, well, we leave 15 slots of the 99 available for 15 random cards from the Changeling Pool. And of course, at the tappedout.net page, you could see the Changeling Pool in all its entirety in the maybe board. So how we did it is for each 5 games, there were 15 cards that were randomly pulled, and those were the cards that we used for 5 games. Did that 5 times, and this was the first stack of 15, and that was not a very good game. Those were not some very good games. We finished 1-4 in those 5 games. Here were the cards and how they did. Rot Widow Pack did make an appearance. It was out there on the battlefield, and I think that this is just a placeholder right now until we can find a better spider. Its ability of 3 black and a green in order to exile a creature card and then create 1 creature token, that's a spider of course, and then have each opponent lose 1 life for each spider we control. The 5 did not seem to have enough bang for its buck. So I was hesitant after 1 or 2 times casting this, and then knowing that we have to exile a creature from our graveyard, so that can't come back in any way, and we have some graveyard recursion that we could use to get those changelings back. And with only a handful of changelings on the battlefield, we're investing 5 mana to create a 1/2 token, and then having each opponent lose 2 to 3 life maybe, and we lose a creature. Rot Widow Pack, you are probably on borrowed time, so we're just hoping that a better spider can come along that can enhance the spider tribe of the Changeling Pool. The Master Trinketeer never came in play, never drew it, so I have nothing to say about the Master Trinketeer. Put him off to the right. Lord of the Unreal, he worked out very well for the times that he was in play. It gave our guys hexproof, and that was very, very efficient because there was a game that we had Morophon in play, and of course, since he is the ultimate changeling, he had hexproof and he could not be removed by any targeted removal. So the Lord of the Unreal for the Illusion tribe, very, very good. Full Moon's Rise was decent. There was a time I was able to sacrifice this to regenerate all of our changelings because this is the werewolf tribal representative, and that was in response to a board wipe, so Full Moon's Rise worked out pretty well. Riptide Shapeshifter did allow me to activate its ability for 2 and 2 blue and then search, reveal cards from the top of our library until we reveal a card of that type, kind of knowing what the cards were. I tried to take the chance of naming one of the Changeling Pool cards, but unfortunately, each time that happened, or I think it was the 2 times it happened, I only did it twice, I think. The 2 times that it happened, I ended up revealing just a Changeling. So the Riptide Shapeshifter, which is the Shapeshifter representative, the Shapeshifter tribe representative, I think along with the Rot Widow Pack, just a placeholder, I think, for now. General Kudrow did not come up, so I'll put him over with the Master Trinketeer. Blight Mound did not come up. The Timber Protector. I was very happy to have the Timber Protector in play, giving him and all of our changelings indestructible. Very, very powerful. Could not get rid of it, or could not get rid of our changelings because of the indestructible. Worked out really well. This was a sleeper. This was one of the very last to be included in the 75, and Harmonious Archon came out and absolutely wrecked it in the game. This was the guy that led us, this was the creature that led us to our one win. It came in and it just crushed the board. It turned all non-Archon creatures into base power 3/3, and I was playing against a Xenagos deck. I was playing against dragons, and then there was another game where I was playing against I think it was an Eldrazi deck. This guy just came in, absolutely did amazing work. Harmonious Archon, excellent part of the Changeling Pool. The Avenger of Zendikar worked extremely well. It was great to have him come down. It did create the plant tokens, and then play in the land for its landfall ability, put a +1/+1 on all the plant tokens, but also put +1/+1 counters on all of our changelings because they were also plants, because the Avenger of Zendikar is the plant representative. So Avenger of Zendikar was great, and he was immediately targeted for removal. Very, very good addition to the Changeling Pool. Najeela never made it out. Atla was awesome. Atla putting the Atla being in play even without creating her own egg creature tokens. Of course, Atla is the egg tribe representative. So with Atla in play, and if a changeling dies, we get to reveal cards from the top of our library and put it into play. That was just great. We were sending changelings into battle without even caring if they died because we just knew it was going to get replaced. Atla was also a magnet for removal and a very, very good addition. The Uvara Hellkite, the time that we had the Uvara Hellkite in play was also the time that we had the Harmonious Archon in play. And so the Uvara, I mean, we were able to trigger it by sending changelings into battle and creating the 6/6 red dragon creature tokens. However, those changelings ended up perishing so that we can get the 6/6 dragons that we couldn't use until next turn because we didn't have any haste enablers. So although the Utvara is extremely powerful and it did do what we needed it to do, we're going to have to keep an eye on it. So we are going to put it over here in the OK pile. Oh, this is the great pile. Let's put that one over here, and then we're going to have to see. Wall of Mulch. Well, the wall representative here, Wall of Mulch, came down. Let us, chump block and then sacrifice to draw cards. So, I mean, it did what it was supposed to do. And the Scarblade Elite, this was a very effective removal spell. Now, unfortunately, we have to exile one of our changelings from our graveyard, but it lets us destroy target creature. So the Scarblade Elite was a very good creature. It did what it needed to do. It came in and it destroyed creatures. We had to exile, but exiling a changeling that's like 2/2 or 2/3 in order to get rid of, say, Zakama, that's a pretty good exchange if you ask me. So I don't think that's going to be a problem in keeping the Scarblade Elite in the Changeling Pool. All right, these were the next 15, and this we went 2 and 3 with these 15 cards. All right, Docent of Perfection never came up. Next up was Slimefoot the Stowaway, never came up. Crested Sunmare came up and did some great job making our changelings indestructible, because this is the horse representative, and the Crested Sunmare gives other horses indestructible. We did not, and we were unable to take advantage of the gaining life trigger, because at the beginning of each end step, if we gained life this turn, we were able to create a 5/5 white horse creature token. So maybe sometime down the line, we can think about adding a card or two that might act as a way in which to gain life. Now, we do have Altar of the Pantheon in play, or in the deck, which would allow us to gain a life by tapping it as long as we have a god or demigod in play. But that interaction never took place in order to trigger the Crested Sunmare. But it did what it needed to do. Calamity Bearer was a beast when it was on the battlefield. When we were able to get this into play, all of our changelings dealing double damage, this acted as a win condition. Calamity Bearer was a great addition. Unish was awesome. This is probably one of the top 10 to 15 changelings in the Changeling Pool. I'm sorry, not Changeling. This is one of the top 10 to 15 creatures in the Changeling Pool. It coming into play, allowing us to factor fiction. I'm sorry, it's not exactly a factor fiction, but you know, I mean, we reveal the top 4 cards of our library. Opponent separates those into 2 piles. We pick one. Actually, that is a factor fiction. I've said if it's not 5 cards, it's 4 cards. But anyways, and then the Sphinx spells cost 2 less, so it also acts as a mana cost reduction for our other changelings. And when those changelings come into play, it also lets us do the Unish ability. Amazing, amazing addition. Scion of Una never came up. Unfortunately, Spawning Kraken never came up. I was really anticipating that coming, and it never did. Hythonia the Cruel never came up. Soulcatcher's Aerie came out, and it for all intents and purposes, it did what it was supposed to do. It sat on the battlefield as an enchantment, so it's not going to get a lot of attention or, you know, eyes on removal because it's an enchantment and it takes time to build it. And this is the bird representative. And, you know, whenever one of our changelings would die, we would put a feather counter on this, and then all birds get +1/+1 for each feather counter. So this kind of acted as a pseudo Door of Destiny's or pseudo Door of Destiny's ability. And we never came into any trouble with any other players having birds, because it's not birds we control, it's all birds. So Soulcatcher's Aerie, it did what it did. I'm ho-hum with it, so I put it over here in the meh pile. The Kithkin Mourncaller. Okay, this one we had in play a lot, and what was troublesome to me is because we kind of want to keep our creatures around. We don't really want to send many of our creatures into battle knowing that they're going to die on purpose. And there were very few times in which having the Kithkin Mourncaller in play and then having an attacking changeling hit the graveyard, resulting in us drawing a card, it didn't really happen that much. So this didn't really offer, at least in the games that it came into play, of course. And it's a pretty small sample size, but it's enough to report back with some statistics. So Kithkin Mourncaller, not sure about how it's going to fare long term. It's going to go over here in the meh pile. Wing Splicer was great when it came into play and it creates the golem token. That's fine, but when it gives when it gives golem creatures we control flying, that means all of our changelings fly. So Wing Splicer, great. Magda, awesome. Top 10 to 15, because whenever we're tapping one of our dwarves, we are creating a treasure token. So we're building up and then being able to sacrifice the 5 treasures, even though we didn't always have access to a traditional dragon creature, we were able to do that and get a changeling into play. And we have some pretty powerful changelings on the deck. So Magda, great. Tulsimer never came up. Pack Leader came up, and Pack Leader worked out pretty darn well. I mean, when it attacks it, we prevent all combat damage that will be dealt this turn to dogs we control, so we know that we can send our creatures into combat, and we know that they're not going to die as a result of combat damage. Pack Leader did some great work. Captivating Vampire did some great work too. In fact, such great work that when he hit the battlefield and we already had more than 5 quote-unquote vampires because of our changelings, we were hated out of that game immediately because we were threatening to tap and take away some of the most powerful creatures on that board. So the Captivating Vampire, that baby is staying in, of course. All right, the third set of 15 resulted in a 3-2 record, and here they are. Catamaran Enforcer never came out. The Daru War Chief was awesome. The mana cost reduction and all soldiers getting +1/+2, excellent addition. Seshiro the Anointed never made it out. Serpent of Yawning Depths, unfortunately, never made it out. Sea Hunter made it out and was awesome. Just tapping 3 and putting any changeling card from our library into play was awesome. The Kavu Monarch made it into play multiple times, giving all of our changelings trample, and then whenever another one of our changelings came into play, we put a +1/+1 on this. Ho-hum. I mean, having trample is nice, and the Kavu Monarch is the Kavu tribe representative, because honestly there really aren't any other Kavu that could make it in. Nevertheless, ho-hum with the Kavoo Monarch. Patron of the Moon never made it into play because the only time I had it in my hand in the games that we were playing, in the 5 games that I had this, the only time I had it, I couldn't get it into play. Couldn't cast it. That was when we were experiencing the mana problems before we went and revised the land base in the last video we had. So the Patron of the Moon, we don't know. So I'm going to put that in the not sure pile. Balthor the Stout never made it out. Drogskull Captain sure did and gave our guys +1/+1 and hexproof. Worked out very well. Just please keep in mind, it doesn't give itself hexproof. Made that mistake and it cost me dearly in a game. Like they say, reading the card explains the card. Zarethsan the Trickster, top 10 to 15 cards in the Changeling Pool. Being able to send one of our lowly changelings that's 1/3 or 2/2, so unassuming, I'll just let it come through, no blockers. Suddenly we flash in Zarethsan, and I'm sorry, let me say that again. Suddenly we tap 2 blue and a black, return that changeling to our hand, and we're sending in one of our creatures from our changeling deck. Yeah, Zarethsan, top 10 to 15, easy. Sachi, Daughter of Sashiro, never came out. Lynn Civi, never came out. The Regal Caracal definitely came out and did an awesome job, giving all of our dudes lifelink, or all of our changelings lifelink as the cat representative, creating some tokens, hunkering down the board, clogging up the battlefield. I'm not ready to put this in the top 10 to 15, because again, it has a mana value of 5, so it is a bit of an investment. Granted, when it comes into play, it's giving us a total power toughness of 7/7, which you really can't turn your nose up at that with the 2/1/1 tokens, and then other cats are getting +1/+1 with lifelink. Regal Caracal, I like it, but I'm not sure where to put it. I'm kind of ho-hum with it. I'm happy that it was in play. It definitely helped to prolong the game. I guess we're just going to have to see if it can keep doing that. All right, Rakdos the Showstopper. Oh, so unfortunate that it never made it into play. And the Wirewood Savage, this was awesome. Whenever a changeling came into play, doesn't have to be cast. Whenever it came into play, bam, draw a card. Very, very good. All right, so we're getting right down. We're almost done with this review. The next 15 also produced an overall record of 3-2 in the 5 games that it played. And here they are. All right, Malcolm Keen-Eyed Navigator never made it into play. Bishop of Wings did make it into play, and honestly, it kind of underwhelmed. Whenever a changeling would come into play, we'd gain 4 life, and whenever an angel died, which would be one of our changelings, we create a 1/1 spirit creature token with flying. The life gain was just okay. The 1/1 spirit creature tokens with flying, I guess they were suitable for, pinging here, pinging there, or chump blocking. But for an angel tribe representative, I kind of want more. So Bishop of Wings in the meh pile. Aurochs Herd did exactly what it needed to. It came into play and searched us out another changeling, another Aurochs. So it did what it needed to do. The Atagatog was awesome. I'm thinking top 10 to 15 for Atagatog. Worked great. All right, the Archer, the Great Bow Doyen, never made it into play. Godo made it into play multiple times. Unfortunately, we don't have an equipment in the deck right now. So we were really unable to take advantage of both sets of his abilities. So I think in the future, if we're going to keep Godo in the Changeling Pool, which, let's be honest, he is the best samurai that we can offer here, or he is the best samurai tribe representative, I think we're going to have to try to fit in. We're going to have to try to fit in at least one equipment so that Godo can fetch that bad boy out. Kahira the Orphan Guard came in, and that is our Nightmare representative. And it did what it did. I mean, +1/+1 in Vigilance. It helps to stabilize our board, made our dudes bigger, send them into combat without having to worry about them tapping. Kahira was strong. Korvath, our Knight representative, never made it into play. The Reaper King did, and we crushed in the game that it came into play. It's not really a surprise to say that this is a top 10 to 15 card in the Changeling Pool. I'd probably go as far as to say top 5 to 10. Reaper King came into play, and then we just were absolutely wrecking everything. Excellent, excellent card to include. Ayula. Listen, Burgeonites, Ayula, top 10 to 15. When we can get Ayula into play early, and we have a good number of changelings in our hand, they're coming into play, we're fighting with them, or we're making them bigger, we're taking control of the battlefield. Ayula was awesome. I wouldn't have thought that she'd be that good. Top 10 to 15, easy. The Skemfire Avenger never came out into play. Galia the Endless Dance definitely did provide the haste, did give haste and +1/+1 to our satyrs, but I never took advantage of it. Whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, you may discard a card at random, and if you do, draw 2 cards. That's just too risky for me. But the +1/+1 in haste, I like that ability, so she did all right. Aura Skyclave Hierophant never made it into play. Emil the Blessed never made it into play. Biogenic Ooze, top 5 to 10 shape, or top 5 to 10 cards in this Changeling Pool. It was amazing with changelings in play, putting +1/+1 counters on each one we control. Unfortunately, because of the way that the mana base was before we made the revisions, the 1 in triple green, in order to create a 2/2 green ooze creature token, never took shape. However, I'm a lot more confident that moving forward, we're going to be able to utilize that ability a lot more frequently. Biogenic Ooze was awesome. All right, and we're down to our last 15, and this last 15 also produced a 3-2 overall record. Again, we finished the 25 games 12-13. Had some revisions, and now we're reviewing with the potential to revise our Changeling Pool. We are so close to finishing this deck. Yes, we are. All right. Risen Reef never made it into play. That was a disappointment. I really wanted to see what that could have done with all the changelings. Aboshan, the Cephalid Emperor, never made it into play. Kazul Warlord did, and it was +1/+1 counter madness. Very, very strong. A good addition. Kazul Warlord did a really good job. Because whenever we were putting a changeling coming into play, it was giving all changelings a +1/+1. Good job with the Kazul Warlord. Blood Speaker never came into play. Skeletal Vampire did come into play, and it did some real good heavy lifting work. When we're able to activate its 3 and 2 black to sacrifice one of the bats it creates, or one of our changelings, perhaps from a chump blocker, perhaps from one being chump blocked, or when we're chump blocking with one of them, we can create 2 more bats, then we can sacrifice a bat to regenerate him. Skeletal Vampire was very strong. Death Baron never made it into play. Mirrodin made it into play and gave all of our dudes fear. That was wonderful. And we were actually able to untap and sacrifice a quote-unquote rat to even make more rats because of a changeling ability. Excellent work. The Synapse Sliver was out there. And yes, we were able to draw some cards off of some of our changelings that, of course, were slivers, because whenever they dealt combat damage, we were drawing a card. Synapse Sliver worked out well. Guiltleaf Archdruid, top 10 to 15 cards in the Changeling Pool. Whenever we were casting a changeling, we're drawing a card. The threat of having 7 untapped druids, reframe that. The threat of tapping 7 untapped druids to take all of the lands of a player, that seemed to really hate her off the board. Of course, it was not anything I was ever intending to do. However, the threat was looming, and she was a magnet for removal. So, Guiltleaf Archdruid, great work. Regisaur Alpha, meh. It gave our dudes haste, came into play, and gave us a dinosaur with trample that was a 3/3 and also haste, but that's all it does. Just some haste, and we have a lot of other haste abilities, so meh, just okay. All right, the Elvish Archdruid, I hate to say it, but meh. It acted as a lord for a +1/+1 power toughness boost. It did give us a green mana for each elf we control. However, in a 5-color deck generating an oodles amount of green mana wasn't entirely helpful the times that it was out in play. So Elvish Archdruid at this point in time, meh. Yuriko, top 5 to 10. If we could pair this with Zareth San because of the ninjutsu ability, just amazing. We were able to do such great things with Yuriko, particularly because as the ninja representative, our changelings are going to be ninjas. Yuriko, excellent. Midnight Entourage, very stable card. It's acted as a lord for +1/+1, but when it or any of our other Etherborn, of course our changelings were to die, we were able to get some cards in our hand at the cost of some life. It was good. It worked out pretty well. Goblin Chieftain, I mean, this is pretty similar. It's a haste. It gives +1/+1. It's kind of similar to some of the other lords we've seen. When it was in play, it did its job. It was pretty good. Same thing with the Ferris Band War Chief, giving other centaur creatures, of course, +1/+1 vigilance and trample. Now, granted, it's a mana value of 4, but however, it is also vigilance and trample on a 3/3. This was a very strong lord. I would definitely rank this much higher than the Goblin Chieftain and some of the other lords because of the addition of vigilance and trample. All right, MTG Burgeoning Community. That is it. That is the review of our 75 card Changeling Pool. Let me know what you think about this pool in the comment section below. Do you offer any alternatives, any changes, any tribes that aren't in here that might find their way in during the next video? This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic.